It started in Gurley, Alabama. When I was a little girl, I remember piling in my family car and driving from Chattanooga, Tennessee to Gurley, Alabama. Gurley was the hometown of my grandmother, Clara McClellan McFarland. It wasn't until I became an adult and started researching my family history that I realized the rich heritage that Gurley had to offer on the McClellan family. Come join us as we explore the lives of Samuel and Sophia McClellan. We are from Gurley, Alabama.
The McClellan family roots traces back to the 1800s to Samuel McClellan and Sophia Gurley McClellan in a small rural town only 6 miles long and 3 miles wide called Gurley, Alabama. Gurley is 16 miles east of Huntsville, Alabama, and 80 miles west of Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Gurley was founded in 1830 at the foot of the Appalachian Mountains between the Flint River and Paint Rock River. The soil was rich and perfect for growing cotton, and the woods made it ideal for hunting. In 1857, John Gurley built a cedar water tank near the tracks of the former Memphis and Charleston Railroad. Water was piped to the tank from a spring on Kill Mountain. People built homes and businesses around the tank to tap into the lines, and Gurley became the first town in Madison County to have its own waterworks system.
According to the 1850 and 1860 U.S. Census slave schedules, John Gurley was a slaveholder with 33 slaves. The federal census slave schedule required a slaveholder to list each slave by their age, sex, color, and if they were deaf, dumb, blind, or mute. Names were only listed for slaves 100 years old or older.
Sophia Gurley, the original matriarch of the McClellan family, was born a slave in Gurley, Alabama in 1844 and was given the surname Gurley after her master, John Gurley. The Civil War began in 1861 between the northern and southern states. There are no known records of Sophia's life during this time period. On September 18, 1867, 2 years after the Civil War, Samuel McClellan married Sophia Gurley.
Samuel filed a claim through the Homestead Act, allowing former slaves to become landowners, and acquired 82.3 acres on Kill Mountain in Gurley, Alabama. Kill Mountain Road runs through the McClellan property, almost splitting it in half. Kill Mountain spans through the Jackson and Madison counties and overlooks Gurley. 25 years earlier, African Americans were considered property, not property owners or landowners. But Samuel received the official land patent on September 25, 1890, making him a landowner.
The McClellan family lived in a large log cabin on Kill Mountain. Samuel and Sophia had 8 children: William, Jackson, Calvin, Albert, Hattie, Samuel Jr., Alonzo, and Jenny. Samuel was a farmer who picked and chopped cotton for a living. Sophia is listed in the 1900 census as a servant/cook. Sophia was known for churning butter near the spring that ran down the side of the mountain and selling it to the people in town. The spring later became known as Sophia Springs. Samuel and Sophia instilled strong Christian values in their children. The family worshiped at Mount Lebanon Primitive Baptist Church on Section Line Road, founded in 1890. The church was destroyed by a tornado in 1950. Polly Haywood, Samuel and Sophia's granddaughter, was instrumental in raising funds to rebuild the family church and was well known in the city of Gurley with her work in the community. In 2010, the city of Gurley honored Polly by declaring March 22nd as Polly Haywood Day. Polly lived to be 106 years old.
By 1870, the 14th and 15th Amendments were passed and ratified, allowing former slave citizenship and granted black men the right to vote. Samuel was a trailblazer and registered voter in 1867. 3 years before the 15th Amendment was passed granting black men the right to vote. He battled discrimination, intimidation, threats of violence, and even death as a black man in the Jim Crow South. Jim Crow law also made it illegal for blacks and whites to share public facilities. This meant that blacks and whites had to use separate schools, hospitals, restaurants, hotels, bathrooms, and drinking fountains. Justice Samuel appeared out of nowhere in 1867 when he married Sophia. He mysteriously disappeared or died between the time he acquired the land patent in 1890 and the 1900 census, where Sophia is listed as a widow. As of 2020, Samuel's origin and death have not been determined. Without a date of birth, place of birth, or the name of his parents, it is difficult to distinguish the numerous Samuel McClellans during that time period and trace his life journey.
After Samuel's death, Sophia's children moved her from the large log cabin on Cale Mountain and built her a home next to her son William on Betty Street. Sophia died in 1926. She was 82 years old.
According to the 1900 and 1920 census, neither Sophia nor her children could read or write. Anyone caught teaching slaves to read or write were beaten and sometimes killed.
In 1913, Gurley received a grant to build a school for children of former slaves through the Rosenwald Plan. Conyers Rosenwald School was built where Section Line Road meets Hereford Road. The Conyers Rosenwald School closed in 1957. The only evidence remaining of the school's existence are the concrete steps, which later served as the home of the late Polly Haywood, granddaughter of Samuel and Sophia.
In 1923, a huge fire destroyed most of downtown Gurley. Only 2 of the original buildings remain.
Several members of the McClellan family are buried in Clay Cemetery in Jackson County, Alabama, located at the end of Section Line Road near Hereford Farms. The land was part of the Clay Plantation and was used as a burial site long before it was deeded in 1926. The oldest graves are unknown, with only moss covering rocks without any engraving. The earliest marked grave is 1910. Mr. T. Davis Freeman, one of the caretakers who was over 90 years old, states that the only record of who is buried in Clay Cemetery is kept in his head. Although Sophia's headstone could not be found, Mr. Freeman is certain that she is buried there.
Rooted in the small town of Gurley, Alabama, Samuel and Sophia's seeds are now scattered all over the United States: Alabama, California, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, Kentucky, Maryland, Missouri, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, D.C., and others.
The land on Kill Mountain in Gurley has been in the McClellan family for over 100 years. Samuel and Sophia left more than 82.3 acres of land still owned by the family as their legacy. They also left a legacy of hard work, resilience, determination, and family as we share the stories of their lives with future generations.
In a family document researched and compiled by Sandra Watson White, the life and lineage of this great family are clearly laid out. We come from Gurley, Alabama, and our legacy